How are you, Raymond?
Hello, my little angel of delight.
See, that's the way to return in kind after that monstrous setup that I read verbatim that you emailed me earlier.
Yeah. Well, you forgot the part about me winning the Nobel Prize in chemistry.
I forgot about that. Darn it. Well, that's email for you.
Yep.
So what'd you think of the Jon Gruden regalia that was rolled out, the silver and black carpet that got rolled out yesterday, Ray?
Well, I was surprised there wasn't more pandering toward Las Vegas. This was more sort of a classic Oakland press conference. They did it in the weight room at the Coliseum. There were very few frills and not much glitz. It was Jon Gruden selling Jon Gruden. And other than that, it was pretty boilerplate. I mean, you got from Jon Gruden what you thought you'd get. And, he was long on inspirationals and short on details, but that's what press conferences are now. So no, I thought that was the only thing that surprised me, is that they didn't pander more to their future audience.
Well, I mean, because to me, a shovel has been put in the ground there, right? I mean, dirt has been
Yeah.
moved.
Oh,
correct?
no. Yeah, they're going. It's not, it's not like they hired him because they want to change their mind.
I know. Because to me, this is honestly the weirdest, most unique relocation I've ever seen, where where the fans are still all in, and the organization is talking directly to their fans that is soon to be in the rearview mirror, Ray. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, they were less all in as the season deteriorated. You started to hear more people complaining about, now they're leaving in 2 years. They've screwed us again. But now they're back on board because the one thing that Mark Davis has had a real predilection for throughout his ownership is to reach back to the past. He hired Reggie McKenzie because Ron Wolf, who was basically Al Davis's right-hand man, told him that Reggie McKenzie was the most qualified candidate. They hired Jack Del Rio because he played his high school football and basketball in Hayward and is still sort of a high school icon there. Marshawn Lynch, you don't even have to explain it. And now Jon Gruden is very much Mark Davis trying to make up for what I think many people can consider Al's biggest mistake. So, I mean, it was another step to the past, which Raider fans like. And it's one of the last chances they'll get to do that before they pick up stakes.
So, Ray, when did Mark Davis, do you think, best you can tell, decide that whatever was going on with Jack Del Rio, certainly off of a terrific season last year that I think we can all agree could have, should have, or would have wound up differently had Derek Carr's leg stayed intact? When do you think he decided, I'm going to take this moonshot with Gruden one last time during the season, best you can tell?
I would say about midway through. I think the game that probably derailed this team was early on when they lost to Washington in such decisive fashion. But I think it was probably about, I want to say game 10, because by then you could see that the wheels had come off. The offense wasn't functioning at nearly the level it had to cover up for that defense. The locker room was, wonky at best. And I think at that point, I think he made one more run at Gruden on the theory. I don't think he did it then, but I think he did it, as soon as he could. I think he had decided if Gruden doesn't take this, maybe I stay with this one more year. But Gruden was ready to go for any number of reasons, not including the second 10-year contract in the history of the National Football League.
And the third one's going to be given to Jimmy Garoppolo by the Niners, right, Ray Ratto? Correct? You say?
I think they'll stop short at 8, but with a couple of option years.
It is amazing how much life got breathed into the 49er franchise the minute he got out there, started playing football in that uniform.
Well, I mean, he did the one thing that 49er fans will fall for every time. He threw the ball and got their offense moving. I mean, even through the best years of the Harbaugh era, it was a defense-first team. And I think 49ers have liked that. 49er fans have liked that, but they've never loved it. And he came basically, well, first of all, he falls out of the sky. I don't think they thought that he was going to be available. In fact, nobody thought he was going to be available. So basically, he's a Christmas present in October. And so now they can be excited about this because they know that that the future is not Brian Hoyer or C.J. Beathard. Now, all of a sudden, they have a future at quarterback, and then he comes in and for 5 straight games, he does things that they like to watch. And so now, people are so over their skis about him that they've basically forgotten that he will be capable of losing games for you because he does take chances and he does throw into tight coverages sometimes. And he's going to break their hearts from time to time, but they have someone that can hang their hat on in an era in which finding a good quarterback is the hardest thing in the world to do, and they didn't have to work very hard to get there. So that's pretty much that. And,
it does set up an interesting 2018, Ray Ratto, NBC Sports Bay Area. What do you think going in right now is the reasonable level of expectation for that franchise next year?
A 47-0 win in the Super Bowl.
It's a very high bar. Right? I'll be
a reasonable. I would say 10-6.
Wow.
That will be considered lowballing by most 49er fans because they look at a diminished division.
Okay.
In which the only team that looks like it's pointed in the right direction is Los Angeles, and they're a Todd Gurley injury away from being back in the soup again. And I don't think that they're so dreamy-eyed now. I think they're mentally making those transformations to that 81 team that ended up like 13-3 and won it all after winning 2 games in 79 and 6 in 80. I think some people are already staking out that territory. I think the more sensible number is 10.
Ray Ratto, NBC Sports Bay Area, here on the Rich Eisen Show. The NBA season, to me, has just a handful of major storylines that coming in, we were going to come cover it come heck or high water. Warriors obviously being one, LeBron and Paul George's whereabouts another, what's going on with the Celtics being another. One that has seemingly come up out of nowhere has been the relationship between the referees and the players. And it seems that Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, and the Warriors are right there in the middle of it. Would you say that's a fair assessment of what's going on in the NBA, Ray Ratto?
I think well, nothing on radio is a fair assessment of anything, let's be honest.
We're on TV too, Ray. So.
Oh, okay, well, in that case, it's absolutely legitimate.
What's going on?
Is.
Right?
Well, I think the Warriors, one of the things one of the chips they wear on their shoulders is the sense that they don't get superstar respect from officials, that they don't get treated with the same, deference on calls that LeBron James does or that Kobe Bryant did. And I would dispute that because the way they play, when you're shooting from the outside, you're not going to get as many foul calls. I think they think that, in a way they're not getting their due from the officials because basically nearly every call, one of the Warriors is incredibly aggrieved. Andre Iguodala holds his arms out more than touchdown Jesus. But I think the bigger problem and the one that Draymond Green is in the middle of is that officials don't want to talk to players anymore, I think in part because fewer and fewer players know how to talk to officials. It's a dying art that seemingly nobody wants to teach the next generation. So now when a player wants to say something to a referee, it's an agonized, why do you suck? And, no self-respecting adult's going to answer that one. So I think it's a combination of the league is trying to be more inflexible in a business that requires nothing but flexibility. And secondly, that the players are not doing the due diligence that their forebears did in terms of working officials, knowing how you can talk to different guys. Because they are different people. And, the biggest problem, though, quite frankly, is the number of retirements of top-quality guys. Marty McCutcheon retired this year. He was considered the best there was. At the beginning of the year, Danny Crawford, who was the best guy at talking with players, he retired. Joey Crawford retired a year ago because his knee went out. And they're not being replaced by sort of flexible, chatty, guys who can actually sort of navigate a game so that everybody feels like they got a fair shot. So I think part of it is structural in the way the league wants officials to be, and part of it is players don't know how to talk to officials anymore.
And I imagine the officials who are still there won't take too kindly when they read Draymond Green's theory that we should just start from scratch, wipe them all out, and get some new guys in here.
Well, Draymond Green is a really smart guy who said a really stupid thing. And not because the officials will take it out on him, although some might. It's the notion that if you fire the 70 people you have, that you're going to find 70 people who are better than those. It doesn't work that way. You're getting numbers 71 through 140. And if you don't like the best 70, you're sure as hell not going to like 71 through 140. And that's just simple math. I mean, when they went to 3 officials, they didn't get, 25 people who were better than the ones they had. They got 25 people who were worse, which made the officiating worse. And from that moment on, the NBA has tried to figure out a way to standardize officiating to the point where it can no longer endure. The replay rules are absurd. Every time a league office tries to meddle in officiating beyond its competence, it ends up badly. The National Football League is as classic an example of this as any. I mean, you don't know what anything is anymore. I mean, everything, it's a rolling crapshoot depending on who's holding the rule book upside down when they're reading it from 3,000 miles away. I mean, if you cannot tell your viewers what a catch is, you have a fundamental problem with what you're doing. And that's not just a catch. That's pass interference. That's false start. That's a face. I mean, the NFL, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but they don't know how to present football anymore. That's an issue. And the NBA, by trying to standardize this and make it a more inflexible place where you can't talk to a guy respectfully, that's going to be a problem too. And Adam Silver needs to jump on that quickly before it gets worse.
Raymond, I always love chatting with you. Just one last thing for you to keep in your schedule potentially. And I don't like taking gigs away from Andrew Siciliano, who's one of my colleagues. He sits in on this show on occasion. Normally, he is the one who MCs this thing, but I don't know if you noticed, there is going to be a coin flip between the Raiders and the 49ers at the Combine as to see who drafts 9th in the NFL draft and who drafts 10th. I think you would be the perfect MC to flip that coin, Ray, and be the guy to break the news to certain members of the Bay Area that they're drafting 9th and drafting 10th. I think you'd be perfect.
Well, as long as we can do it my way, which is to take the coin, throw it as far away as it can get, and then have Jon Gruden and Kyle Shanahan run for it, and then fight till somebody gets it.
Like the XFL? Like the XFL in a way, Ray?
Well, maybe with explosives. I mean, because if you're gonna do this and make it television quality, you need body parts flying in the air. That's just a rule of mine.
Nobody can spitball like you, Ray Ratto. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it.
Bye, honey.
That's NBC Sports Bay Area's Ray Ratto here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.